Hello everyone, my name is Martin Suarez, and today I'm gonna explain my approach to creating an instrument from any sound source. So hey, for example, here close to Christmas I found this little jingle bell necklace, and I want to create an instrument with it. So you're gonna only be limited by the end of your imagination. So for example, I want this little jingle bell necklace to sound like like a virtual piano, like a synthesizer, so you can create any sounds with it. And it involves some sound programming, some Ableton Live software, and some different techniques to mold the sound to whatever you want it to be. So follow me and I'll show you my process and my approach to create this virtual instruments from any sound. Hey guys, so I'm just showing you right now that to create a nice recording, I've found this little nice jingle bell necklace, as I told you before, but also you need a nice microphone. I like having this two XY microphone made by Zoom that you can just plug onto your iPhone or iOS device, and it just captures the sound in a really nice way, and it's so convenient. You just press record and away you go. See, we're recording now, and the really cool thing about it, you have a volume control on it, and the two stereo setup of microphones can capture either a 90 degree or a 120 degree, and it's perfect to create some either panning sounds with microphone techniques as the one you're gonna see right now. So if you move the microphone around the sound source, you're gonna get some really cool effects, and you won't get that if you just record it with either a mono microphone or from a static position. So these are some more advanced microphoning techniques. Alright guys, so if you have been following my tutorial, you know that I recorded the sound of the jingle bell little necklace, and now I'm planning on creating an instrument from it. So first of all, we're gonna load the sample in a software, a DAW such as Ableton Live, and I really like Ableton Live because it enhances the creative process and it just lets you create instruments focusing on the instrument building side of things rather than having to route everything and a complicated setup. It really is an easy DAW to use if you want to create new instruments. So first of all, I've loaded the sample right here, and you should be able to hear the recording now. So those would be the finger snaps, and then right around here you hear the first jingle bell little recording that I recorded a few just to get the best one of all of them. And right about here, this is the little portion of the jingle bell sound that I'm going to be using. So with these locators you can chop down the sample to whatever you need, and then I've dropped it, the part that I'm going to be using, onto this new track. So if you want to hear, this is the sound. So that's the little jingle bell sound that I'm going to be using to create a sample. After having chopped down your sample, you are going to load a sample instrument. Ableton Live has the sampler and the simpler, and they are both virtual instruments that allow you for the modification of a recorded sound to create an instrument, or to create just a repeated a looped sound for live purposes or for composing purposes, sound design, or whatever you need. The sampler, it has a bit more options and it's the instrument of choice for this particular purpose, but the simpler also has lots of functions, and it might be the choice you want to go if you want, like, say, a live setting or something like that. All in all, this is the track where I've loaded the sampler instrument, and here you can see it. This is the sampler instrument, and right around here it's the portion of the sample that I'm going to be using. So first of all, the thing that we want to do, and I call it tuning your sample. So you want to make sure that your sample is gonna be tuned to a certain frequency. If you want to use microtonal scales or more complicated theories that go out of the equal tempered scale, you can do it using the tuner. I like to just load a tuner after the sampler instrument, and what I'm gonna do is just play the sample and figure out what is the pitch that it's playing, and from there I can modify it, and then I should be able to tune it to a particular key or a particular note. So let's just play this sample for now. And right now, yeah, I should be able to get sound from my sample. There, it's really low. There. Okay, so that is the sample the way we had it before, right? And what I'm gonna do is turn on my tuner, and it's gonna show me right here the frequency that this sample is playing around. So see that I'm playing around a C, but it was not in tune before. So what I like to do is use this portion of the sampler instrument to tune my sample to a certain pitch. So for example, this is how it was before. It was tuned to a C, but around 30 cents lower than what it should. So I just used this little function right here, and I tuned it a bit higher, and there we go. Now my sample is in tune to C. The cool thing about this sampler instrument is that it maps automatically the sample to pitches, and that can be mapped to a MIDI keyboard or a MIDI controller, or even just to your computer keyboard as I'm using right now. So for example, you can choose your root key. So for example, right now, the root key that I'm playing is a C. So I have mapped my root key to be a C as well. So if I play a C on the MIDI controller, I'm gonna get a C from my sample. And also this little trigger mode, it's a really cool function. You can get it as a one shot. So if you play it, it's just gonna stop after. If you keep pressing your MIDI controller, the sound would just stop. But I also like this other sustain one, like a loopback with reverse function, or just a loopback with a normal play function. So for example, right now it plays and keeps looping back, forward, backwards. And yeah, you can just experiment with these things on the sampler instrument. But right now I'm gonna keep going and show you more of my effect chain that I have created for the sampler instrument. But first of all, inside the sampler we have the pitch envelopes and the oscillators that are gonna be modifiers to the original sound. So right now I'm gonna turn on the oscillator function, and it's gonna add some frequency modulation to my sound. So with the sound of a sine wave, it's gonna add to the original sound of my sample, and it just adds a little bit more of an electronic feel to the sound. Right now you won't be able to hear much of it because I have the volume of the modulation turned down, but if I turn it higher, you should be able to hear now a difference. Most of these filters are gonna be controlled by an Adsr controller, and this type of controllers are really cool because you can modify the attack, the decay, the sustain, and the release of all these effects. So you can have an oscillator with a fast attack, then a low decay, a long sustain, or something like that. You can program this as whatever you want, but I just wanted a growing sustain and then an infinite release on this. So basically that's what I'm doing right now, and this is the sound I get. And the sound changes drastically if you move your envelopes around a little bit. So you get the idea. Now, I didn't want to modify too much the original sound, so I have the mix volume here turned down quite a lot. You can also use the pitch envelope filter. It's one that I don't use very often, but it can add some pitch modulations to your original sound sample. Right now I just have turned it on. You won't be able to hear much of it, but it's just adding a little bit on the back of this sample. All in all, you can add some more modulation. You can get some low frequency oscillators. You can combine 3 of them with different frequencies and different attacks, but I'm not using this for this particular sample. So the last thing that I'm going to show you for the sampler instrument, it's the global filters. So here I have these 2 filters. One is just a normal like EQ type filtering that you can have as a low pass, a high pass, or different styles of filtering with different slopes, circuitry, and you can also use the shaper that I'll use later. And the filter envelope modifies the frequencies and filters them through an ADSR envelope. And again, we have just another ADSR for the global filtering, and this is the area that you want to modify if you want your sound to have a low attack, like a rising sound, such as a violin type of instrument. You're gonna modify it here. So for example, this is what I have right now, and it has a fast attack because I want the jingle bell to actually make the sound as a bell there. But if I modify this, I can have a growing sound. You get the idea from there. But now this filter, it's just acting as an EQ. So there you might hear a difference. And I'll just show you a few more different options you can use with this EQ filtering style. I've chosen this particular one because I just want to get rid of some high frequencies that might damage speakers, and I don't really like that over hissing sound on top. So that's about it for my process of using the sampler instrument to create an instrument. So I'm just gonna show you. This is a little scale. And this type of sounds, they can be used for sound design, for film scoring, for creating new instruments for songs, to make a cool beat or something. But mainly, it's just opening up your options and not getting logged onto sample libraries. You can make your own instruments from this. And now that we're close to Christmas, I just recorded this little snippet of an example with it, so you can There we go. So that's an instrument that I've created with the jingle bell sound. If we continue over here, this is my signal chain, and this is my effects chain that I've created. And I'm just using an auto panner, so it's gonna move the sound from left to right of your stereo system speakers or your headphones, and vice versa from right to left. You can change the amount, the rate, the phase, and the shape from this particular plugin and audio effect. But right now, if I play again the sample, you're gonna hear it going kind of around your head. So it moves from left to right and vice versa. And lastly, I've added just the reverb. It's a convolution reverb with an impulse response that I got from some people that claim to have recorded the longest impulse response in the world. It's a 0.02 second long convolution reverb impulse response, and it can add some crazy sonorities to your recorded sounds. And it's one that I really like, and I'm not using the dry and wet level too high, but still you're gonna hear the bells as if they were so far away right now. There we go. So that's the sound that I've created for my jingle bell instrument. But you shouldn't stop there. So with the same idea of modifying samples, I've created a few different instruments, and let me show you. So this new instrument that I've created is using the same approach basically. So I've created from the same sample, but now I have just selected a little snippet of the sound, and you're gonna hear, I'm just gonna turn off the other effects so you can hear the original sound, and then kind of walk you through a fast forward version of what we just did before. So right now, yeah, this is the little snippet of the sample, and let me just play it for you. There we have it. So you're gonna see around here on the tuner that it's not perfectly in tune. And this is the little part where I'm gonna tune the sound to whatever I need. Also, I've changed the root key to be an A sharp because I want that if I play a C note on my MIDI controller, I want the C note to come out through this instrument. If not, it would be really hard to play. So I play a C and I get a C. So I had to map this differently. And you can do that right here or using the zone environment. Alright, but this is how I tune it. So I play a sound, check on my tuner, and then just tune it by sense. There, perfectly in tune. So C, and if I play different notes, they are all gonna be in tune. Alrighty, now I've added the same idea. So the sustain mode, just back and forth right there. Pitch oscillation, a little bit. There, you can hear it. Now you can hear it a bit more because it has a sawtooth wave, and the volume, it has a very thick mix. Also the ADSR environment, it's panned differently. And the global filter, now it's taking some of the higher frequencies that I don't like. Because I want this instrument to sound more or less like a Wurlitzer played through a guitar amp or something like that. So you can hear now, this is more like a synthesizer type of sound, or like an electric piano. There we go. And also I've just added a little bit of this around the head and some convolution reverb, but with a really low dry and wet mix right now. So it just adds a little bit to my sound, and now I get a really nice piano, like electric piano kind of sound. And this all comes from the same Jingle Bell sample. Now, I've created a couple more that I'm just gonna show you, because it doesn't make too much sense to waste more of your time, guys, showing you my approach. But again, so I've copied the same idea as before, used the same little sound, but now my effect changes over here. I've added a ping pong delay to make this instrument sound more as a ethereal kind of pad. And there you get it. The ping pong delay is just sync into either a frequency or sync into the tempo of my project right now. And you can use this instrument combined with all the other ones for sound design or to create a nice tune or a song or sonority. And lastly, I've created a bass instrument kind of sound. And for this one, again, I've used this little snippet of the sample, and I'm just gonna play it for you. There we go. And the most important thing about this bass sound, it's gonna be that I've used the oscillator in a different way. Again, with the sawtooth wave, the volume is very much different than before. But the attack on my Adsr global filter, it's a really short attack, so I can get this hard bass sound rather than a growing like violin tone. I get a hard attack. And I've used this shaper again that I was telling you about, so it helps modify the original sound through a sine wave. I'm using a square wave right now actually, but you can change it according to different waves, and this just adds to the sound. So if I turn it off, the sound is much softer, but the shaper gives it, as it recalls, a bit more shape. And lastly, I've added an overdrive, so my bass sound can have more of a presence. And there you go, guys. This is my approach to creating instruments from a sound that you have previously recorded. This expands your chances and really expands just your palette of what you can do with sound and how you can improve your composition skills or your sound design skills. Because with this approach you can make any instrument from any type of sound. So give it a go. I hope this gives you a little bit of an inspiration, and just go ahead, make some music, record the sound of the voice of a friend, record your dogs barking, the sound of the sea, record anything and try to make sounds with it. Try to create new instruments and make new sonorities that you might be using later on. This is just a little example that I've created with my new instruments, and I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I really hope some of this was useful for you guys. And if I made some mistake, please forgive me. I've tried my best. Okay, now that you have followed my tutorial, I hope that you can use this information to expand your use of music, so you can make music from anything. If you go to the river, try to make music from the river. If you go find a tree that you like, make music from the tree. Just music from everything, because I believe that everything can make music, and it's just up to you now with technology and all the tools that we have. We can make things, we can create things that we couldn't have done before in the past. So I hope this tutorial helps you and maybe gives you some inspiration and some ideas on how you can record sounds and then create instruments with them, so you can make your own music and create your own signature sound. Thank you.